General.
Yeah, thank you, Mario, and thanks for hosting this thing. You're doing a wonderful job. This is really a question for Alex and Elon, and a statement, and I wish Andrew and Vivek were still on. We've talked about these different sort of array of forces between, the globalists and the humanists, or whatever the right descriptors are. What I would really like to see, and I would love to hear Vivek's take on it, because I think he's such a wonderful debater. I'd like to know if there's possibility to set up a intellectual debate between, the Alex Jones, Elon Musk, Andrew Tate, Vivek, probably throw Tucker in there. Maybe there's Joe Rogan, against an intellectual debate against the Klaus Schwabs, the Bill Gateses of the world. And then there's others.
They won't do it because we'll kill them.
I disagree. I mean, this is how we fight today, right? We are fighting in an information domain. Andrew, I wish he was still on, because I'd love to hear his take, because, Andrew starts to imply, and there's a lot of people that imply this, we're going to move to something that we don't want to, a place that we don't want to be, because of this. Frankly, what I see is a globalist takeover, and I'm all with you, Alex, and you and I have talked about this a lot. But what I would really like to see is an intellectual debate and a challenge. Otherwise, because 2024 is going to be, for the United States, is going to be a historically consequential moment in history. And I would prefer that extraordinary session that I've been listening to for the last couple of hours here. And I would really like to hear, at least Alex, because you're on, and I think Elon's. What do you think about setting up some type of intellectual debate, or at least array
on X? On X,
yeah,
doing it through Spaces.
Well, on X, on X, or however, I would love to see them come on X to do this, because this would be wonderful.
Alex, would you be open, you and Elon, would you be open for such a debate?
Well, let me just throw this thing, because I'm chomping the bit here, and then Elon will take over. It should be on X. They had the last Republican debate, and it had like 5 million viewers. This is going to have 50 million viewers. We keep acting like dinosaur media even still matters. It should only be held on X. And I would love to see it in this format, or with an added video component to it.
Yeah.
Yes. Challenge their intellectual idea. I'm sorry. Okay. That's my point. That's my point. Yeah. We have to challenge their intellectual arguments.
Yeah, I agree with the general. What's Hold on, Laura.
I was just going to say that from a future standpoint, we are working on adding video to Spaces. So it'll just be a simple thing where you can turn video on or off, and then whoever's speaking at the video will switch to them, just like if it's like a group call or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So that, I think, will help. It's because it's helpful to see people's body language as I speak. It conveys more information if you can see their face and their body language, if they wish to.
When do you think that will?
We're hopeful we hope to release that functionality before the end of the year, but certainly by early next year.
Huge. Well, that's a big technological.
That's a big one. That's big.
Yeah, I'll go to CJ.
But that's very big, so that's pretty, frankly. But yeah, it'll be cool, I think. Yeah.
It's just fascinating how far Spaces. I remember being on Spaces since the early days, pre-Elon. To see how far it's gone, and to be able to have discussions like this. I don't think the audience understands. There's never been any platform where voices from all sides, voices that were sensitive before, all speaking in one place.
Oh, let's be clear. There's been more innovation than the
exactly.
whole before.
I'll jump off, but I just want to say thanks to Elon.
Since the rather embarrassing Ron DeSantis situation, I really have to credit the X team for making massive improvements to Spaces, because it basically did not work at scale until a massive amount of work was put into it. It obviously broke rather embarrassingly in the Ron DeSantis situation, and we didn't realize how fragile and weak it was. And since then, we've put massive work into making Spaces actually robust and be able to have, you can have at this point millions of people listening simultaneously, which is quite difficult to do.
Elon, I've never seen an interface that works this good. I mean, you've got a whole how you're doing this. And General Flynn did bring up the best question in the last 2 hours. So I'm sorry I was getting so excited and interrupted the general. He's absolutely right. We should be challenging them to debate us. I agree with you, General. That's really a key point. I'm saying they're too cowardly to do it. How do we...
Jack, your mic, I can't mute you, Jack. But you go ahead. Just quickly, before you continue, Alex, Elon, I don't know if you remember, I think the first space you came on, and we hit 100K live listeners, and it broke, so it wouldn't show.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do it.
9,000 right now, 109,000.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it, but I know that that we have to do it. We don't have I think we are in a place where we don't have a choice right now. I think the intellectual arguments on their side, I just think that they're going to fall flat, and they don't really have a good argument. And Elon mentioned it early on about how much energy it takes to lie. I mean, it just does, to lie to so many damn people. But we have to pick this fight. It has to be intellectual. Our intellectual arguments are much, much stronger. And I just think we have to have the right type of people. And, those people have been on here today, and invite these people. I mean, if they don't want to come, we call them out as cowards. I mean,
wait a minute.
why
Being
not?
poor and everybody, wait a minute. General Flynn, hold on a minute. I'm going to call you out right now. Eating bugs, drag queen story time, open borders, World War III. You're saying that's not how you're saying their plan isn't wonderful?
Hey, for a guy that has had to eat bugs, Alex, they don't taste very good. So, yeah.
I'll go one step further. I think we should see a 2v2 MMA duel between Alex versus Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates. I think that'd be the real.
I think Elon should call him out. It'll be bigger than the top UFC fight. If those cowards will show up, my God, it'll be their Waterloo.
Elon, you know how the media works. Do you want to call them out, and then you'll get that snippet all over the media?
Well, I'm certainly happy to have a debate with Klaus Schwab or others. I think you guys maybe been following what's going on in Davos more than I have, and certainly more than the vast majority of people have. I think most people don't even know that there is a conference in Davos, or the World Economic Forum. And I've only seen snippets, but some of the snippets are concerning. And I don't think we should have a sort of an unelected quasi-governmental organization deciding our future. Who said who made them the boss? Do people even know that they're doing this? I'm not okay with some organization, that I don't vote for, controlling, my destiny or that of other people. So, and I don't know if they're necessarily fully controlling, but they certainly are influencing things. And and it's. I think an unelected world government is not a good idea.
Well, Elon Musk breaks the internet.
On that point, CJ, I'll go to you right after for a question, then Suleiman. But on that point, how much control, you kind of change it, whether control or influence? Because on one side, you've got people that say, they control the world. Every decision is kind of influenced, or, they make that decision behind
the world.
On the other side, there's the people making the argument that they're trying to do the right thing, and things are being taken out of proportion. It's full of conspiracy. Where do you think on that spectrum, in your opinion, we stand?
Well, the original premise of the World Economic Forum was to have some kind of forum where there would be interaction between government leaders and commercial leaders, sort of heads of corporations and governments, and that there would be some forum for them to talk. And like that original premise, I think, is not a bad one, because right now you've got the UN, but that's just government to government, and you've got a bunch of sort of individual situations where commercial leaders will meet with government people one-on-one. But there's the sort of the good part of the World Economic Forum is it's probably good to have some dialogue between commercial leaders and government leaders internationally. That's I think the positive side, and that's originally how I heard about the World Economic Forum. And I was invited to speak there many years ago, which I was just too busy working, and I was like, well, I can't really go spend 5 days in Switzerland. I have work to do in America. So then they weirdly wanted me to come talk there, but also pay them $20,000. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So I declined the invitation. It does seem that since inception, perhaps this organization has gained a bit too much power and a bit too much influence. And I think it probably, it should have less power and influence, is my opinion.
I have a quick question. Tweeted about the imprisonment of the American Chilean Gonzalo Lira in Kharkiv, Ukraine yesterday. I'm curious if that imprisonment of an American for speaking his mind on YouTube and X has caused you to consider further support for Ukraine, albeit through Starlink or other means. And also, unrelated to that, can you provide any updates about Starlink for Gaza?
Yeah, I generally think, look, I understand that if an American citizen is in another country and violates that country's laws, or what those countries' laws, even if their actions would not violate the laws in the United States, that person would then be put in prison. But in the case of Ukraine, the United States is providing a vast amount of aid to Ukraine, and the United States government has an obligation to protect its citizens. And so I think, even if one disagrees with what, that, I guess, YouTuber or journalist, depending on your perspective, what they posted, I feel uncomfortable sending massive aid to Ukraine if they're putting American citizens in jail for doing videos on YouTube. That's not cool. And it's like, and you could say like, okay, well, yeah, but Ukraine has the sovereignty in their country. It's like, yeah, but they don't have a right to our money as well. So it's like, they don't have a right to our money and support and to imprison and mistreat American citizens.
Well, that's right. Look, I'm a dog in the fight. Russia, Ukraine. It's an old ancient fight between the two countries that's been going on for 1,000 years. It's a Slavic civil war. But Ukraine is arresting the Orthodox Church Ukraine, even the mayor of Kiev has said Zelensky's becoming a dictator. So all I'm saying is this black hole we're feeding hundreds of billions into, we should at least be able to debate it. And if an American journalist is critical, he doesn't deserve to be put in a gulag. That is very dangerous. I agree, Elon.
As for Starlink for Gaza,
Yeah, and on the Starlink for Gaza front, I mean, obviously that place is currently a war front next level. So in order for Starlink to be used in Gaza, terminals have to be brought in, and they have to be, used in a way that where it is there's a high degree of certainty that they are not being used for any violence. So now there are only really two ways to get into Gaza. One is through Egypt, and the other is through Israel. So if there was a situation where, say, Egypt was willing to let Starlink terminal in, and that we could have very high certainty that the terminal would not be used for any kind of military purposes or for violence, then we would support that. Egypt has not stepped forward, to the best of my knowledge, in that regard. And obviously, we're not going to be played for fools here, where if an organization would perhaps pretend to be using Starlink for peaceful purposes, but then actually use it for violent purposes. We will basically ask for a webcam on that thing 24/7, and if there's the slightest concern about it being used for violent means, it would be turned off. So that's the situation there. I mean, it is a very difficult situation, and I am sympathetic to Israel, but I also I'm sympathetic to civilians in Gaza. So I'm pro-human, to be clear, and so
Elon, it's just like, here's the deal. I'm not pro-Russian. I'm not pro-Ukraine. I hate the war. I'm pro all of them. I agree. But when you learned that they were using Starlink to rig up robot boats to blow up battleships when Russia said they were going to launch nukes if they did, you didn't sign up Starlink to be a weapon system. It's very fair to say it's my company. It's my.
Well, yes. To be clear, the Crimea and the sort of sea around Crimea was an officially sanctioned area by the United States, and we were not actually the Starlink cells were not turned on in Crimea and the area around Crimea because of U.S. law would prevent us from doing so. There was a Ukrainian attempted attack on the fleet in Sevastopol, and I got an emergency call saying hey, we need to turn on the cells around Sevastopol. And I'm like, well, that's currently a U.S. sanctions zone. We would need permission from the U.S. government to do so. And in fact, and it would also mean that we are directly complicit in an attack on the Russian fleet directly. It wouldn't be, there's no plausible deniability here. Now, even though I'm not the biggest fan of President Biden, but if President Biden had called and said, as the President of the United States, I'm asking you to turn the cells on, I would have done so. But we did not get any such call. We were only called by the Ukrainian government, and the Ukrainian government is not my boss. So, it's like, and so we can't, it would actually be illegal for me to turn on Starlink cells at the request of a foreign government in a territory sanctioned by the United States. That would
They were
be
setting
a violation of U.S. law. So it's like
they were setting you up like Cindy Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, but the media misrepresented it as I turned off the cells. This is not true. They were never on. And if I had turned them on, I would have broken U.S. law, and I would need an exemption from the State Department and express written permission from the president in order to do.
And that's why Blinken.
Yeah. So, and I do think we need to be cautious about escalating that war, and we need to find a path to peace, and not sacrifice the flower of Ukrainian and Russian youth ultimately for nothing, for a few miles of territory, which is currently what's been going on for the past year.
Dealing with this question, let me go to CJ and I'll go to you. Let me go to CJ and I'll go to you right after. CJ?
Mario.
Hey, Mario. Thank you.
Laura,
Thank you
yeah,
so
go ahead,
much.
CJ.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mario, for hosting this. My name is CJ Pearson. I'm a 21-year-old conservative activist, and I currently work at Prager University. And General Flynn made a really important point a little bit earlier about how Twitter has made it super accessible for conversations like this to happen, debates and discourse. And Alex, I think, also made the point earlier that if you look at the debates and the viewership that they've had, you don't really see them reaching all that many young people via traditional cable channels. And one idea that conservative activists like myself have had, different Gen Z conservative influencers have had, is having a Gen Z moderated debate or town hall with the Republican primary candidates and exclusively streaming it here on X. What would you think about something like that? Do you think that would be a way for America's next generation to hear different ideas that they obviously aren't hearing currently on their college campuses?
Well, actually, I don't believe in X, but I think that not doing it on the X platform, makes no sense. Things should be done on the X platform because it is the most widely accessible platform. It is where you will see. It has by far the most reach. The X platform has by far the most reach of anything. Although like I don't. This conversation, I don't know, might top out at maybe a few 100,000 people live, but it will probably go viral afterwards. And I don't know, probably have 10 million people listen to it, or 20 million.
On the Mutiny space, we had 18 million listeners from memory.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way to think of this platform is that there, on an average day, there are over 250 million people on the platform. That's an average day. Some days it's more like 300 or 400 million. And a really crazy day could be like 500 million. So, I mean, at times we're starting to approach 10% of all humans who are online are on the platform.
Well, Elon,
so it's a very big number, and we're obviously not active in China. X doesn't work in China. It actually works on international phones, but not domestic phones. And I believe does not work in Russia. So I think we do exceed 10% of all humans at times on this platform. So it seems crazy to ignore this platform because then you're just going to reach far fewer people.
Well, Elon, bottom line here, the proof is in the pudding. You judge the tree by its fruits. You are the only massive platform that's open and free. People are hungry. It's exploding. This is the example for the world.